"Sweetheart, you look thirsty. Come closer, and let me give you something worth drinking." The officer's voice slid across the bar as his smile hardened into something cruel. His fingers tightened around the glass, then he tipped it forward. Cold whiskey spilled over Alana's head, soaking her hair, running down her face, and dripping onto the front of her plain blouse, while laughter burst behind him, loud and approving. "There," he said, tapping the empty glass against the bar. "That suits you better." The alcohol burned her eyes as he leaned in, his breath heavy, his badge catching the light like it made him untouchable. No one stepped in. No one said a word. Alana wiped the liquor from her cheek, slow and deliberate, and held his gaze as the last drops fell onto the bar. He thought he was putting her in her place, never realizing he was handing his future to the one woman who could take it from him. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The night air hung heavy with cigarette smoke and whispered conversations as Alana Brooks pushed open the door to Marlene Pike's bar. The small establishment sat nestled between a laundromat and a corner market, its neon sign casting a red glow across the sidewalk. Inside, the warm lighting revealed wood-paneled walls decorated with local sports memorabilia and faded photographs. Alana paused at the threshold, her dark eyes methodically scanning the room. She noted the exits, the layout, the faces of people who might soon fall under her command. Tomorrow she would walk into the precinct wearing her captain's uniform, but tonight she was just another face in the crowd. Marlene looked up from behind the counter, her hands busy polishing a glass. She was a sturdy woman in her 60s, with salt and pepper hair pulled back in a practical bun. Years of running a neighborhood bar had taught her to read people quickly, and there was something about this newcomer that caught her attention. "What can I get you?" Marlene asked as Alana approached the bar. "Club soda with lime, please." Alana's voice was smooth and measured. She settled onto a stool at the corner of the bar, where she could observe the room without drawing attention. Marlene slid the drink across the wooden counter. "New around here?" "Just passing through," Alana replied, with a small smile that revealed nothing. The door swung open again, this time with force. 3 men burst in, their laughter drowning out the low murmur of conversation. The tallest one led the way, his swagger announcing his presence before his voice did. "Marlene! Tell me you missed me," he called out, slapping a 20 on the counter. "Evening, Officer Holloway," Marlene responded, her tone noticeably cooler. "The usual? Make it a double." Been a long day keeping these streets safe. His 2 companions, both wearing the unmistakable short haircuts and rigid posture of police officers, chuckled on cue. Alana sipped her soda quietly, but her gaze was sharp. Grant Holloway was exactly the type she'd been warned about. Handsome enough to be charming when it suited him, confident from years of unchecked authority, and already carrying the slight sway of someone who'd had too much to drink before arriving. It took less than 5 minutes for him to notice her. "Well, well," he said, turning toward Alana. "Don't think I've seen you before." His eyes traveled over her in a way that was meant to make her uncomfortable. Alana met his gaze steadily. "Just enjoying my drink." Something in her calm response seemed to irritate him. The bar had grown quieter, conversations dropping as people sensed the shift in atmosphere. "Marlene's is a local spot," Holloway said, louder now. "You visiting someone? Or just lost?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "I wasn't aware this place required special credentials," Alana replied evenly. One of Holloway's friends snickered. "She's got you there, Grant." Holloway's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone who should know better. In his mind, the hierarchy was clear. Officer at the top, civilian at the bottom, and certain civilians even lower. "Actually," he said, stepping closer to Alana, "this neighborhood has had some problems lately. Suspicious characters. Part of our job is to keep an eye out. Marlene moved down the bar toward them. Grant, she's just having a quiet drink. Leave her be. I'm just being friendly, Marlene. Community policing, you know? His voice dripped with mock sincerity, making sure everyone feels welcome and safe. The cruel irony wasn't lost on anyone in the bar. Several patrons looked away, suddenly very interested in their drinks, or the sports game playing on the television. Alana remained perfectly still, her posture straight but relaxed. She'd encountered men like Holloway throughout her career, bullies who confused fear with respect, who measured their power by how small they could make others feel. I appreciate your concern, she said calmly, but I'm fine right where I am. Holloway circled closer, moving into her personal space. The entire bar seemed to hold its breath. His two friends watched with amused anticipation, eager for whatever entertainment was coming next. You know, Holloway said, his voice dropping to a theatrical whisper that everyone could still hear, attitude like that gets people in trouble around here. Marlene tried once more. That's enough, Grant. I don't want any— It's fine, Marlene. Holloway cut her off without looking away from Alana. Me and the lady are just getting acquainted. The tension in the room was palpable now. Every eye was on them. Alana saw exactly what was happening. A public performance of dominance. A man used to humiliating others to prove his power. Grant lifted his glass, amber liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. His smile widened into something ugly as he stepped directly into Alana's space, close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath. The bar fell silent as Grant Holloway towered over Alana, his glass tilted dangerously in his hand. She didn't back away. She didn't lower her gaze. The standoff stretched for one long, uncomfortable moment. You know what your problem is, Grant said, his voice carrying across the quiet room. You think you're special. You walk in here like you own the place. Marlene gripped a rag behind the counter, her knuckles white. The other patrons stayed frozen, drinks halfway to lips, conversations abandoned mid-sentence. I'm just having a soda, Alana said, her voice measured and calm. Grant's friends exchanged glances, smirking. They'd seen this before. See? That right there. Grant pointed at her face. That attitude. Like rules don't apply to you. He swirled his glass, amber liquid catching the dim bar light. People around here show a little respect to the badge. Is that what this is about? Alana asked. Respect? Something flickered across Grant's face. Surprise that she wasn't cowering. Irritation that his intimidation wasn't working as planned. Yeah, maybe it is. His smile returned, wider and meaner. Maybe you need a lesson about how things work in this neighborhood. It happened so fast that several people gasped. Grant's arm moved in a deliberate arc, tilting his glass directly over Alana's head. The whiskey splashed across her hair, ran down her face, soaked the shoulders of her blouse. The ice cubes clattered against the wooden floor. Oops, Grant said loudly. Looks like you made me spill my drink. His friends erupted in laughter. One slapped the bar counter repeatedly, shoulders shaking with exaggerated mirth. The other raised his glass in mock salute. Whiskey dripped from Alana's chin. It stained her shirt and filled the air around her with its sharp smell. A few patrons looked away in embarrassment. One man near the door chuckled reflexively, then stopped abruptly when he caught sight of Alana's face. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. With steady hands, she wiped the liquor from her eyes. She straightened her shoulders and looked directly at Grant, her gaze cool and assessing. There was something in that look, not anger, but calculation, that made Grant's smile falter for just a second. I'd like your full name, Alana said, her voice perfectly even. Grant blinked, then recovered. Oh, you're filing a complaint? Good luck with that. He laughed and flashed his badge clipped to his belt. Officer Grant Holloway, badge number 4479, 12th Precinct. He emphasized each word with mocking precision. You can send your complaint straight to the trash, 'cause that's where it's going. His friends snickered. One mimicked writing on his palm. Dear police, a mean officer spilled a drink on me. Please arrest him. Marlene hurried over with a clean bar towel. Here, she said, handing it to Alana. As Alana dabbed at her face, Marlene leaned closer and whispered, He does this because nobody stops him. I'm sorry. Alana nodded slightly. Her eyes traveled upward, noting the security camera mounted above the register. It was pointed directly at them, its small red light blinking steadily. Grant and his friends didn't even glance at it. The confidence of men who knew such evidence would never be used against them. Thank you, Marlene, Alana said, handing back the damp towel. Her voice was quiet, but carried a weight that made several people look up. She gathered her purse, dignity intact despite her soaked appearance. Grant stepped aside with an exaggerated bow. Don't be a stranger now, he called after her. Alana walked out without looking back, leaving a trail of whiskey droplets on the floor. The door swung shut behind her, cutting off the renewed laughter inside. In the parking lot, the night air was cool against her wet skin and clothes. Alana took a deep breath, then pulled out her phone. She scrolled to a contact and pressed call. Darius? It's Alana. I need you to meet me at my motel right away. She paused, looking back at the bar's neon sign. No, I'm fine. But I've just had a very educational welcome to town. She hung up and walked to her car, the liquor drying sticky on her skin, her mind already moving from humiliation to purpose. The neon vacancy sign cast a red glow through the thin curtains of room 118. Inside the cramped bathroom of the Pinewood Motel, Alana bent over the sink, working shampoo through her hair for the second time. The sweet, sticky residue of whiskey still clung to her scalp, despite her efforts. A sharp knock at the door made her look up. It's open, Darius, she called, reaching for a threadbare motel towel. The door swung open and Darius Bell rushed in, first aid kit in one hand and a duffel bag in the other. His paramedic uniform was still on, the collar rumpled from a long shift. What happened? Are you hurt? His eyes scanned her quickly with professional assessment. Alana emerged from the bathroom, towel wrapped around her shoulders. I'm fine. Just sticky. Your phone call didn't sound fine. He set down the bags, concern etched across his face. You sounded controlled. That's when I worry most. Alana took the duffel bag, unzipped it, and nodded with approval at the clean clothes he'd brought from her suitcases at his place. Thank you for picking these up. Stop stalling, Alana. What happened? She told him everything. The bar, Officer Holloway. The drink poured over her head. The laughter. With each detail, Darius's expression darkened. By the time she finished, he was on his feet, hands balled into fists. That's Grant Holloway? The Grant Holloway? His voice rose. I've picked up his victims from sidewalks and alleys. I'm going down there right now. Alana stepped in front of him. No, you're not. He humiliated you in public. And tomorrow, he'll learn exactly who I am. The corner of her mouth lifted slightly. That's the point, Darius. He stared at her, slowly understanding. You went there on purpose. Before taking command. She nodded, sitting on the edge of the bed. I needed to see how they behave when nobody's watching. When they think nobody important is watching. And I saw exactly what I needed to see. She ran the towel over her damp hair. But I didn't expect to become the evening's entertainment. Darius paced the small room. You need to understand what you're walking into. That precinct has been rotten for years. Holloway's just the most visible part. Tell me, he's had at least 3 brutality complaints I know about personally. One guy, Marcus Wilson, had a broken jaw. claimed Holloway did it during questioning. The complaint vanished. Darius's face hardened. Last winter, a college girl said Holloway threatened to arrest her unless she got in his car. She refused. Next day, suddenly, she had outstanding warrants. Nobody believed her. Alana listened, absorbing each detail. And his friends protect him, Darius continued. Body cams malfunction. Witnesses change stories. Evidence gets lost. He sat beside her. These guys don't play fair, Alana. I didn't come here expecting fair. She reached for her phone. But I did come prepared. She dialed a number, putting it on speaker. A woman's voice answered, City Manager's office. This is Captain Alana Brooks. Is Mr. Kendrick available? A pause, then a man's voice. Captain Brooks. Everything on schedule for tomorrow? Yes, sir. The 8 a.m. roll call introduction will proceed as planned. I just wanted to request that the Internal Affairs representative be present as well. IA? Is there a specific concern I should know about? Alana's eyes met Darius's. Nothing I can't handle, sir. Just want to set the proper tone from day one. Very well. I'll make sure they're there. She thanked him and hung up. Darius shook his head in amazement. You didn't even mention what happened. No need yet. Alana stood and walked to the closet where her garment bag hung. She unzipped it to reveal her captain's uniform, crisp and pristine. She ran her fingers over the badge and nameplate. Cap T. A. Brooks. This guy pours a drink on your head, humiliates you in public, and tomorrow he finds out you're his new boss. Darius let out a low whistle. I almost feel sorry for him. Don't. Alana carefully pressed the collar flat. He made his choice. Now he'll face the consequences. You think it'll be that simple? These guys stick together. One embarrassed officer isn't going to change a whole corrupt system. Alana turned to him, her expression serious. This isn't about one embarrassed officer, Darius. This is about every person who's ever been pushed around by someone with a badge who thought they were untouchable. She carefully hung the uniform back up. Tonight was just the first move in a much longer game. Darius studied his cousin, seeing the steel beneath her calm. This wasn't the impulsive reaction of someone nursing a wounded pride. This was calculated, patient determination. Tomorrow starts early, Alana said, checking her watch. And I plan to be very well rested. The precinct briefing room buzzed with morning noise. Officers clustered in small groups, coffee cups in hand, some slouched in chairs while others leaned against the back wall. Lieutenant Naomi Reed moved through the crowd with tight efficiency, clipboard in hand. 5 minutes, people, she called out. Her eyes darted to the clock, then to the door. Worry lines creased her forehead. At the front of the room, Chief Harold Wynne adjusted his tie, smoothing it against his crisp uniform. His silver hair caught the fluorescent light as he nodded to a city official beside him. They spoke in low tones, occasionally glancing at the door. Showtime, someone muttered, as the door swung open. Grant Holloway sauntered in with 2 officers flanking him, the same men who'd been at Marlene's bar the night before. His uniform was technically correct, but rumpled at the edges. The smell of last night's whiskey clung faintly to him. Sorry, Chief, he called, not sounding sorry at all. Traffic was brutal. A few officers chuckled. Holloway slapped one on the shoulder as he passed, grinning. Hey, Miller, you hear about that bartender on 5th who tried to cut me off last week? The room shifted at 8:02 a.m. precisely. The rear door opened, and every head turned. Captain Alana Brooks stood in the doorway, her uniform pressed to perfection, badge gleaming on her chest. The room fell silent as she strode forward, her steps measured and unhurried. Holloway's smile collapsed. The blood drained from his face so rapidly that the officer beside him glanced over in concern. Jesus, someone whispered. Naomi Reed's eyes widened. She looked from Alana to Grant, then back again, putting together pieces of a puzzle she hadn't known existed. Chief Wynn stepped to the podium. "Officers, please give your attention to this important announcement." His voice carried authority, but his eyes kept sliding toward Holloway. After extensive consideration, the mayor has appointed Captain Alana Brooks as the new commanding officer of this precinct. Alana took her place beside him, her posture perfect, her eyes scanning each face in the room. When they found Holloway, they didn't linger, just noted him like any other detail. "Captain Brooks comes to us with 15 years of distinguished service," Wynn continued. "Her mandate is clear: restore discipline, accountability, and community trust in this department." The silence in the room grew heavier. Several officers shifted uncomfortably. Wynn gestured to Alana. "Captain, would you like to say a few words?" "Thank you, Chief." Her voice was calm, controlled, the same voice that had asked for Grant's name after he'd poured a drink on her head. "I believe in actions over words. I believe in accountability. And I believe this precinct can serve its community with honor." She paused, letting the words settle. "Before we continue with today's briefing, there's a personnel matter that requires immediate attention." Her tone never changed, never revealed emotion. "Officer Grant Holloway, please step forward." The room went completely still. Holloway didn't move for a long moment, as though hoping he'd misheard. Finally, he took 3 stiff steps toward the podium. "Officer Holloway," Alana said clearly, "last night, while off duty at Marlene Pike's establishment, you assaulted a civilian by pouring your drink over her head. That civilian was me." A ripple of shocked murmurs spread through the room. Naomi Reed's clipboard dropped to her side. "Pending a full investigation into this and other potential violations, you are placed on administrative leave effective immediately." Alana's gaze was level. "Please surrender your weapon and badge to Lieutenant Reed." Holloway's face flushed red. This is not a discussion, officer." Alana cut him off. "Lieutenant Reed?" Naomi stepped forward, her face professionally blank. "Your firearm and badge, Officer Holloway." For one shining moment, justice seemed to land with perfect weight. Officers who had laughed with Holloway now couldn't meet his eyes. Some nodded slightly, as though this was the reckoning they'd been waiting for. Holloway removed his badge with trembling fingers, then unholstered his weapon. He slammed both onto the table beside Naomi rather than handing them to her. "This won't stick," he sneered, recovering enough to find his voice. "You're making a mistake." Alana didn't respond to the threat. She simply turned to the room at large. "Let me be clear. Under my command, this department will be held to the highest standard. No exceptions." She nodded to Naomi. "Lieutenant Reed, please escort Officer Holloway out." As Naomi moved to comply, Alana's eyes found Chief Wynn. His smile had thinned, his posture less welcoming than minutes before. Something calculated had entered his expression. Not quite resistance, but certainly not the support she'd expected. Holloway paused at the door. Naomi urged him forward, but he turned back, leaning slightly toward Alana. "You have no idea where you just walked in," he muttered, his voice low enough that only she could hear. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the small conference room. 3 cardboard cups of coffee steamed on the table, untouched. Alana sat with her back straight, reviewing the assault report form with methodical precision. Lieutenant Reed fidgeted slightly with her pen, while the internal affairs representative, a tired-looking man named Morales, stared at his phone. "The security footage should make this simple," Alana said, signing the bottom of her statement. "With Marlene's testimony and the video, we'll have this wrapped up by end of day." Naomi nodded, though something in her expression seemed guarded. "I've put in the request for the bar's security footage. They should be sending it over within the hour." Morales finally looked up from his phone. "Captain Brooks, I understand this is personal for you, but these things need to follow procedure." I'm aware of procedure, Alana replied. That's why you're here. The conference room phone rang. Naomi reached for it, her movements quick and efficient. Lieutenant Reed speaking. Her expression changed almost immediately. Put her through. She pressed the speaker button. Ms. Pike, you're on with Captain Brooks and Internal Affairs. Captain. Marlene's voice crackled through the speaker. We've got a problem. Someone broke into my office last night. Alana felt a cold knot form in her stomach. Was anything taken? Nothing people would notice. But they got to my security system. The DVR's been tampered with. Footage from 8 to 10 p.m. is just gone. Marlene's voice tightened. They came in through my delivery door. Whoever did it knew exactly what they wanted. Morales shifted in his seat. Ms. Pike, are you certain it wasn't just a system malfunction? Been running that bar for 20 years. Never had a malfunction that specifically erased 2 hours from a night when a cop poured a drink on someone's head. Alana exchanged glances with Naomi. We'll be there in 20 minutes. Marlene's bar looked different in daylight. Smaller, more worn. Bottles gleamed behind the counter where last night Alana had stood dripping with liquor and humiliation. Marlene led them through to the cramped office in back, pointing to the security setup. See this? DVR's been reset. Someone knew enough to wipe just those 2 hours and make it look like a power cycle. She shook her head. I didn't touch it. Found it like this when I opened up. Was anything else disturbed? Alana asked, examining the door with its fresh scrape marks near the lock. No, this wasn't some random break-in. Marlene lowered her voice. After you left last night, a patrol car drove by, slow, twice. Then, around midnight, one of Holloway's buddies from the bar came back, claimed he lost his wallet. Naomi frowned. Did he find it? There was no wallet, Marlene said flatly. But he sure spent a lot of time looking around near my office. Alana took careful notes. Are you still willing to give a statement about what happened? Marlene hesitated, just for a second. Yes, I saw him pour that drink on your head. Saw him laugh while you just stood there, dripping. Saw everything. Outside, Naomi turned to Alana. Captain, I should warn you. This is consistent with other incidents. What do you mean? Evidence problems, technical difficulties, witness statements that change overnight. Back at the precinct, Alana spread 5 folders across her desk. Each contained a complaint against Officer Grant Holloway. Excessive force, harassment, verbal abuse. Each had been closed without action. Look at this, she said, pointing to a notation. Witness recanted. And this one, recording device malfunction. This one just says insufficient evidence to proceed, after the initial report described clear misconduct. Naomi stood by the window, arms crossed. There are more. These are just the ones that made it into official files. And this is normal here? Alana asked, her voice dangerously calm. Nothing about it is normal. But it's how things have worked. Naomi's face showed the weight of years spent navigating a broken system. Holloway isn't alone. He's just the most obvious. Alana picked up a photo from one file. A young man with a bruised face and bandaged arm. The report claimed he'd fallen while resisting. The hospital intake noted multiple impact trauma, consistent with strikes from a blunt object. How many officers? Alana asked. 6, maybe 8 who are like Holloway. The rest just look away. Naomi's voice dropped. Some tried speaking up before. They don't work here anymore. Alana closed the file with a decisive snap. The incident at the bar now appeared as just one thread in a much larger, darker pattern. A system designed to protect the worst among them while silencing those who spoke up. She looked directly at Naomi. This department has been cleaning its own blood off the walls. The records office smelled of old paper and secrets. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, as Alana sat surrounded by stacks of complaint files, some yellowed with age. Beside her, Naomi flipped through digital logs on a dated computer terminal. Two clerks worked quietly at their desks, eyes down, pretending not to notice the new captain's deepening frown. "Look at this," Alana said, turning a page. 3 separate excessive force complaints against Holloway in 2021. All filed by Black or Latino men under 30. All marked unsubstantiated within 48 hours. Naomi nodded grimly. "And the body cam footage?" "Technical malfunction." Alana's finger underlined the identical phrase in all 3 reports. 3 malfunctions, same officer, same week. The pattern was becoming clearer with each dusty binder. Grant Holloway's name appeared alongside the same rotating cast of officers: Diaz, Mercer, Walton, and Kemp. They vouched for each other, backed each other's stories, and appeared in each other's incident reports with suspicious regularity. "They call themselves the cleanup crew," Naomi said quietly, glancing at the clerks to make sure they weren't listening. "If there's a call in certain neighborhoods, they volunteer to respond, especially on weekend nights." Alana pulled another file. "Civilian with broken ribs and a fractured eye socket. Report says he fell repeatedly while attempting to flee. Medical report says injuries consistent with direct impact trauma." "That would be Mercer's style," Naomi said. "He keeps weights in his gloves." Alana's phone vibrated. "It's Darius," she said, stepping away to answer. She returned moments later, her face tighter than before. "My cousin just treated a delivery kid, 17 years old. Black eye, cracked rib, sprained wrist from being thrown against a patrol car. Said 2 officers stopped him 3 weeks ago claiming his bike matched a stolen description." "Let me guess," Naomi said. "Mercer and Walton?" Alana nodded. "Darius said the kid was too scared to file a complaint, but he took photos of the injuries. Standard procedure when they suspect abuse." "There won't be a use of force report," Naomi said, already typing into the system. "Not for that date." She turned the screen toward Alana. "See? Routine stop. Subject was uncooperative, but released with warning. No mention of physical contact." Alana sat back in her chair, studying Naomi's face. "How long have you known about this?" Naomi's shoulders dropped slightly. "Years. I tried pushing back when I first made lieutenant. Filed reports, requested reviews. What happened? My performance evaluations tanked. My overtime disappeared. I got assigned to desk duty for 6 months." Naomi lowered her voice further. "Officer Reyes filed 3 complaints about Holloway last year. She's working traffic in the industrial district now. Officer Taylor backed her up. He quit last month. And everyone else just stays quiet," Alana said. "People have mortgages, kids in college. They convince themselves it's just a few bad officers, not worth losing everything." Naomi met Alana's eyes directly. "Until now, speaking up has only ever made things worse." Alana pulled over another box of files. "The bar incident matters because it shows who Holloway really is. But this," she gestured at the sea of paperwork, "this is the real case. Systematic abuse, protected by paperwork and fear." "You really think you can change it?" Naomi asked, not mockingly but with genuine curiosity. "People have tried before." "People have tried quietly," Alana corrected. "I'm not interested in trying. I'm interested in succeeding." Something shifted in Naomi's expression, a cautious hope replacing her practiced detachment. "Chief Wynn will fight you. The union will fight you. Half the department will close ranks." "Let them," Alana said. "The truth doesn't get less true because people don't want to hear it." Naomi studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I have access to the server backup logs. If files were deleted or altered, there might be traces." "That would be helpful," Alana said, recognizing the offer for what it was, the first real step toward alliance. The afternoon light was fading when a desk sergeant appeared at the doorway. He glanced around nervously, then approached Alana's table. Without a word, he slid a plain manila envelope across to her. "What's this?" Alana asked. The sergeant shook his head slightly. "Just found it in the mail sorting." He turned and left quickly. Alana opened the envelope. Inside was a single USB drive with a sticky note attached. The handwriting was neat but hurried, and the note contained only one word: garage. She slipped the drive into her pocket, meeting Naomi's questioning gaze. "Looks like someone else is tired of staying quiet," Alana said. The garage air smelled of exhaust and damp concrete. Alana walked between the rows of patrol cars, her footsteps echoing against the low ceiling. The anonymous flash drive felt heavy in her pocket. Garage could mean anything. Evidence hidden somewhere, a meeting spot, or even a trap. She moved deeper into the dimly lit space. Most officers were either on patrol or upstairs finishing paperwork. Naomi had volunteered to cover the command desk, giving Alana time to investigate without drawing attention. Smart woman, Alana thought, cautious, but not blind. A car engine started somewhere in the shadows, then fell silent. Alana paused, hand instinctively moving toward where her weapon would normally be. As a new captain, she wasn't yet comfortable with the building's layout. Another disadvantage. "Lost, Captain?" Grant Holloway stepped out from behind a cruiser, arms crossed over his chest. His uniform was still on, though his badge was missing. A visible reminder that he should be processing out, but somehow wasn't. "Officer Holloway," Alana said, keeping her voice level. "I believe you're supposed to be on administrative leave." He shrugged, moving toward her with casual confidence. "Paperwork delay. Chief Wynne wanted to review the situation personally." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Given the unusual circumstances." Two other officers leaned against a far wall, watching. Alana recognized them from the bar. They weren't approaching, but their presence turned this from a conversation into something else. "Nothing unusual about suspending an officer who assaults civilians," Alana said. Grant laughed, the sound bouncing harshly off the concrete walls. "You know, the city loves these symbolic appointments, especially ones that photograph well for the press." He gestured vaguely at her. "But captains come and go. The street men, we stay. We remember who plays ball and who doesn't." He took another step forward, forcing her to back up toward a support pillar. Not touching her, but making the space smaller, more threatening. "I've seen your file, Holloway," Alana said. 14 excessive force complaints in 3 years. 8 of them from Black or Hispanic civilians. 14 complaints, 0 sustained, he corrected, moving closer. "That's the reality you need to understand. This isn't about one drink in some neighborhood bar. This is about respect. For the uniform. For how things work here." Alana refused to back up further, standing her ground even as he loomed over her. "Assaulting your commanding officer isn't how things should work anywhere." "You weren't my commanding officer then," he said, voice dropping. "You were just some woman who didn't know her place. And now?" His smile widened. "Now you're someone who needs to learn how this precinct actually runs. Before you get hurt." "Is that a threat, Officer Holloway?" "It's experience talking. Ask anyone who tried changing things too fast around here." Without warning, he grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her bicep hard enough to bruise. "Drop the bar complaint. Have a quiet command. Don't make enemies you can't handle." Alana looked down at his hand, then back to his face. She didn't struggle or pull away. That would only satisfy him. "Remove your hand, officer," she said, each word precise and cold. "Or what? You'll file another complaint?" He squeezed harder. "How many of those do you think actually make it through the system around here?" "Grant!" Naomi's voice cut through the garage. She stood at the entrance, hand resting deliberately near her weapon. "Let her go. Now." For a moment, no one moved. Then Grant released Alana's arm with exaggerated casualness, stepping back with his hands raised. "Just having a conversation with our new captain," he said smoothly, "explaining some local customs." "You're supposed to be processing out," Naomi said, walking toward them. "Like I told the captain, paperwork delay. Chief Wynn's orders." He gave Alana one last look. "Think about what I said. For everyone's sake." He nodded to his friends, and they peeled off the wall, following him toward the exit. As they passed Naomi, Grant paused. "Lieutenant," he said with a slight nod, his tone a perfect mix of respect and warning. After they left, Naomi approached Alana. "Are you all right?" Alana rubbed her arm where his fingers had dug in. "I will be." "You need to report this," Naomi said. "I will." Alana's jaw tightened. "Though I suspect we already know how Chief Wynn will handle it." She was right. An hour later, sitting across from Wynn in his office, she watched him read her report with practiced concern that never quite reached his eyes. "A regrettable misunderstanding," he concluded, closing the folder. "Officer Holloway is understandably upset about the suspension. Tensions are high during any leadership transition." "He physically grabbed me and made threats," Alana said flatly. Wynn sighed. "Without witnesses. Lieutenant Reed saw him." "She saw him release your arm when asked," Wynn corrected. "Look, Captain, I understand you're trying to establish authority. But turning every interaction into a formal complaint isn't the way to win this department's trust." As Alana left his office, the message couldn't have been clearer. The precinct's leadership wasn't neutral. They had chosen their side long ago. She headed toward the exit, needing fresh air and distance. As she passed the break room, a young officer in a crisp uniform stepped into her path, then quickly looked away. He bumped against her shoulder in what appeared to be a clumsy attempt to pass. In that moment, she felt something small press into her palm. The rookie continued walking without looking back, or acknowledging what had happened. Alana closed her fingers around a small flash drive, tucking it discreetly into her pocket as she pushed through the precinct doors into the afternoon sunlight. The sun sank low outside the windows, painting the precinct in long shadows. Alana's office darkened as she pulled the blinds closed. Her door clicked twice, once for the regular lock, once for the deadbolt she'd installed that morning. No chances now. Naomi stood in the hallway, leaning against the wall with a clipboard. To anyone passing, she was reviewing shift schedules. In reality, she was standing guard. 30 minutes, Alana had told her. "That's all I need." Inside, Alana slid the flash drive into her laptop. Her hands were steady, but her heart hammered. The rookie who'd passed it to her had disappeared after his shift. Smart move. The file directory appeared on screen. Disorganized, but loaded with video clips and text files, all with dates from the past 8 months. She clicked on the first video. Officer Martinez's body camera, timestamp 2:14 a.m., 3 weeks ago. The footage showed a traffic stop that started routine but ended with a young black man face down on asphalt while Grant Holloway's voice barked orders from off-camera. "Don't make me explain another injury report," Grant said, his boot visible at the edge of the frame. The driver wasn't resisting, wasn't even moving, just pressed against the ground, repeating, "Please, sir, please." Alana's jaw tightened. She opened another file. This one showed the station's back hallway. Grant and 2 other officers, Peters and Wilcox, huddled together before entering an interview room. "Remember," Grant said, "he swung first, then resisted. That's what we all saw." The others nodded. His word against 3 blues. No contest. File after file revealed the same pattern. Justice twisted into shapes that protected badges instead of people. Alana paused on a clip that made her stomach turn. A handcuffed man stood quietly beside a squad car, while Grant talked to another officer. Without warning, Grant shoved him face first into the vehicle's door. "Watch it!" Grant shouted for the camera. He moved wrong, but the man hadn't moved at all. Alana checked the file's metadata against records she'd pulled earlier. The official report stated the suspect had attempted to flee while being placed in the vehicle. 3 witness officers confirmed this version. The footage told a different story. A soft knock at the door made her freeze. "It's me," Naomi whispered. Alana unlocked the door, letting her slip inside before securing it again. "Johnson's asking why your office is locked," Naomi said quietly. "Said the chief wants a word before you leave." "How convenient," Alana muttered, turning the laptop so Naomi could see. "Look at this!" Naomi leaned forward, watching the videos with growing unease. Her professional mask cracked as she recognized faces, officers she'd worked alongside for years. "This isn't just Grant," she said finally. "No," Alana agreed. "It's systematic." She pulled up a spreadsheet she'd been building, comparing incident reports with the video evidence. These report timestamps have been altered. "Look at the metadata. They were edited after the fact." "The system logs each edit," Naomi said. "Someone with admin access would have to—" She stopped, the implication clear. "Someone high enough to override security protocols," Alana finished for her. "Someone like a lieutenant or higher." Naomi's face paled. "If the chief is involved." "We can't trust anyone inside this building," Alana said. She reached for her personal phone, not the department-issued one. "I have a contact at the state investigator's office, Sarah Weller. We worked a case together years ago." While Alana texted a carefully worded message requesting an urgent call, Naomi paced the small office. "They're already talking about you," Naomi said. "Peters started it in the locker room. Said you've got some vendetta against honest cops because of what happened in the bar." "Let them talk," Alana said, though her voice tightened. "Words won't hide what's on this drive." Naomi stopped pacing. "I want to help. Officially." She swallowed hard. "I've looked the other way too long." Alana studied her, searching for hesitation. Finding none, she nodded. "I need someone who knows where the bodies are buried. Who approved these reports? Who handles the body cam archives?" Together they began mapping connections, officers involved, supervisors who signed off, technicians with system access. The pattern emerged like a spider's web with Grant at one nexus, but not the center. Alana's printer hummed to life, producing pages of names and dates. She laid them out on her desk, drawing lines between connected incidents. With a red pen, she circled Grant's name. Then, after a moment's hesitation, she drew another circle around Chief Harold Wynn's name and connected the two with a bold line. "You're sure?" Naomi asked, staring at the chief's circled name. "The evidence points there," Alana said. "Grant isn't just protected. He's enabled. That only happens with approval from the top." She studied the web of corruption spread across her desk. The bar incident hadn't been random bad luck. It had been a symptom of something much worse. A culture that believed it was untouchable. Night had fallen by the time Alana returned to Marlene's bar. The neon sign buzzed overhead, casting a red glow over the empty parking lot. She approached cautiously, noting how different the place felt compared to her first visit. This time she came with purpose, wearing her authority openly, even though she'd left her uniform behind. Through the window, Alana could see Marlene wiping down the counter. Only 3 customers remained, an old man nursing a beer in the corner and a couple finishing their drinks. Alana knocked lightly on the glass door. Marlene's head snapped up, her shoulders tensing until she recognized Alana's face. She hurried over, keys jangling in her hand, and unlocked the door just enough to let her slip inside. "Thanks for meeting me," Alana said. "Last call was 10 minutes ago," Marlene announced to the remaining customers, her voice firm but strained. The old man grumbled, but drained his glass. The couple left a tip and headed out. Marlene locked the door behind them with a heavy click. "I've got Naomi, Lieutenant Reed, parked down the block," Alana explained. "Thought it best not to draw attention with a police car out front." Marlene's laugh was bitter. "Wouldn't make much difference. They've been circling like sharks since you left that morning." She led Alana to the bar and poured herself a shot of whiskey. Her hands trembled slightly. "How bad has it been?" Alana asked. 3 patrol cars yesterday, just sitting across the street, taking pictures of my customers." Marlene knocked back her drink. "This morning, a licensing inspector showed up, said there'd been complaints about health code violations. Never had an unscheduled inspection in 15 years. Alana's jaw tightened. "They're trying to scare you." "It's working," Marlene admitted. "I've got a mortgage on this place, 1 bad report, and I'm done." Alana stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Marlene, I need that footage. Without it, it's my word against Grant's, and they're already building a wall around him." Marlene set down her glass. "I told you they wiped the security system. Could there be backups? Anything they might have missed?" Marlene hesitated, then motioned for Alana to follow her to the small office behind the bar. The room was cramped, with filing cabinets squeezed against a desk topped with invoices and liquor orders. "Main system's here," she said, pointing to a black DVR unit. They knew what they were doing. "Erased that whole night? And the day before it?" Alana examined the setup. "What about the register system? Does it record separately?" "Just transactions, not video." Marlene pulled open a cabinet drawer. "I keep old backup drives in here, but they wouldn't have anything recent." They searched methodically, checking cabinets, looking under furniture, examining every electronic device. Alana's hope dimmed with each empty drawer. Outside, headlights swept across the windows as a car passed slowly by. Marlene froze. "That's the 3rd time tonight." "Same car?" "Police SUV. They don't even try to hide it." Alana peered through the blinds. The patrol vehicle crawled past, its spotlight sweeping across the front of the bar. "Wait," Marlene said suddenly, her eyes widening. "There's the old camera." "What old camera?" "My brother installed it years ago, before we upgraded. It's aimed at the register area, helps catch theft, runs on its own system." She pointed to a small, nearly invisible lens tucked into the corner molding. "Most people forget it's even there." A knock at the back door made them both jump. Alana reached instinctively toward her hip, though she wasn't carrying her service weapon. "It's me," Naomi's voice called softly. Marlene unlocked the door, and Naomi slipped inside, looking tense. "We've got 2 officers parked at the end of the block," she reported. "Holloway's friends, Briggs and Martinez." "Just sitting there?" Alana asked. "Taking notes every time someone walks past? Pure intimidation." Marlene sank into her chair. "This is how it always goes. They never threaten you outright, just pressure. Until you decide it's easier to keep your mouth shut." Alana watched the older woman's face, seeing fear battle with something stronger. "I'm tired," Marlene said finally, her voice steadying. "Tired of looking away. Tired of pretending I don't see what happens in my own bar." She stood up, resolve hardening her features. "If you're really going after them, Captain, I'll testify. Whatever you need." "Let's check that old camera system," Alana said. Marlene led them to a storage closet and dragged a stepladder beneath a high shelf. She reached up and pulled down a dusty metal box with cables hanging from it. "Haven't checked this thing in forever," she admitted. "Might not even work." They carried the unit to the office and connected it to an old monitor. The screen flickered, showing a login prompt. Marlene entered a password, and a file directory appeared. "It stores about 2 weeks before overwriting," she explained, scrolling through dated folders. "Here, this should be that night." The video loaded slowly, The angle was high and narrow, showing only part of the bar counter. But the image was clear enough. They watched in silence as customers came and went. Then Grant appeared at the edge of the frame, his posture aggressive. Alana leaned forward as the scene played out. The video had no audio, but it didn't need it. Grant's contempt was visible in every movement. Then the moment came. Grant's arm raised, the bottle tilted, the liquid pouring down on Alana's head as his face contorted in cruel laughter. Marlene hit pause. The screen froze on the damning image. Grant's arm extended, the bottle clearly visible. Alana's shocked expression captured in perfect clarity. "There it is," Naomi whispered. "We've got him." Alana, Naomi, and Marlene huddled around the small monitor, watching the footage unfold with a mixture of disgust and vindication. The image was grainy but unmistakable. Grant Holloway's smirking face loomed large as he positioned himself next to Alana at the bar counter. "Can you turn up the brightness?" Alana asked, leaning closer. Marlene adjusted the settings. "Best I can do." The system's ancient. On screen, they watched Grant's aggressive posture, the way he invaded Alana's space while his friends snickered in the background. Though the footage had no audio, his contempt was written in every gesture. The dismissive flick of his hand, the exaggerated lean into her personal space, the performative way he played to his audience. "Look at his face," Naomi said quietly. "He's enjoying this." The critical moment arrived with brutal clarity. Grant raised his glass with theatrical slowness, his smile widening as he tilted it over Alana's head. The amber liquid cascaded down, soaking her hair and clothes, while his friends erupted in laughter. The camera captured Alana's momentary shock, followed by the remarkable composure that had unsettled Grant that night. "There's your evidence," Marlene said, jabbing her finger at the screen. Plain as day. Alana watched herself in the footage, wiping liquor from her eyes, maintaining dignity despite the public humiliation. It was strange seeing the incident from this removed perspective, both deeply personal and clinically revealing. "Wait," she said. "Go back 10 seconds." Marlene rewound the footage. This time Alana focused on the background. Two officers flanked Grant, their badges visible on their belts despite being off duty. "Briggs and Martinez," Naomi confirmed, naming the same officers now patrolling outside. "They saw everything." Naomi's phone buzzed. She checked it, and her expression brightened. "I've been running those server access logs you requested." She showed Alana her screen. Someone logged into the evidence management system at 1:43 a.m. after the incident, using Officer Peterson's credentials. "Peterson?" Alana asked. "Grant's poker buddy. Always covers for him. Can you prove Peterson was elsewhere?" Naomi nodded. "Already checked. He was on patrol on the east side. GPS confirms it. Someone used his login while he was miles away." A weight lifted from Alana's shoulders. Not only did they have the assault on video, but they had digital evidence of the cover-up attempt. The pieces were falling into place. "We need to secure this properly," Alana said, her mind racing through protocols. "Not just precinct evidence control. They've already proven they can access that. We need multiple copies through separate channels." She pulled out her phone and drafted a secure message to the state investigator she'd contacted earlier, explaining what they'd found. "First thing tomorrow morning, we log this officially," she told Naomi. "Triple redundancy. One copy to Internal Affairs directly, one to the DA's office, and one to our state contact." Marlene sank into her chair, the tension visibly draining from her face. For the first time since the incident, she smiled. A small, tired smile, but genuine. "You know," she said, "I've watched officers like Holloway walk away from worse for years. Never thought I'd see anyone actually hold them accountable." Naomi let out a short, surprised laugh, the sound strange and liberating in the tense room. "He really had no idea who he was messing with." "None of them did," Alana agreed, allowing herself a moment of cautious optimism. They were exhausted, but energized by the breakthrough. The truth had finally gained solid ground against the lies and intimidation. Alana felt it, that rare, precious feeling when justice wasn't just an abstract concept, but something tangible within reach. "We should get you home," Alana told Marlene. "It's late." Marlene nodded, gathering her purse and keys. Back entrance might be safer, given our friends outside. They shut down the computer system, carefully removed the evidence, and secured it in Alana's locked briefcase. After checking that the bar was properly closed, they headed toward the rear parking lot where Marlene had parked her car. "I'll follow you home," Alana insisted as they stepped outside. "Just to be safe." The night air was cool, the street quiet except for distant traffic. For a brief moment, everything felt almost normal, as if they were just three women leaving work after a long day. That's when they heard it, the distinctive sound of shattering glass from the front of the building. The crash echoed through the alley, followed by the tinkling of broken shards hitting the floor inside. A bottle had smashed through the bar's front window, hurled from somewhere in the darkness. Glass shattered across the floor of Marlene's bar, glittering under the dim lights like dangerous stars. Alana's instincts kicked in immediately. She rushed back through the door, hand hovering near her weapon. "Stay here!" she shouted to Marlene, who stood frozen in the alley. Naomi was already moving, darting around the building's side toward the street, her footsteps fading as she chased after a shadow that had already begun to flee. Inside, Alana scanned the damage. A beer bottle lay in pieces among the scattered glass, the front window sporting a jagged hole where it had crashed through. When Alana returned to the alley, Marlene was trembling, but her eyes burned with a mixture of fear and fury. She clutched the flash drive containing the recovered footage against her chest, like it was the most precious thing she owned. 27 years, Marlene said, her voice shaking. "I've owned this place 27 years. Never once had my windows smashed." "Until you decided to help me," Alana said quietly. Marlene lifted her chin. "I'm not sorry." Naomi jogged back to them, breathing hard. "Couldn't catch him. Too fast. But I got part of a license plate from a car parked down the block. Guy jumped in and peeled out." She pulled out her phone, showing them a hastily snapped photo. "First 3 digits, ZMK. Dark sedan, probably a Chevy." Alana nodded. "We'll run it as soon as we get back." "Already did." Naomi's expression hardened. "Registered to Sandra Wilkins, Officer Wilkins's mother. He's one of Grant's poker buddies." Alana took the flash drive from Marlene and slipped it into her inside jacket pocket, securing the zipper. "We need to get you home, Marlene. This wasn't random." They locked up what remained of the bar, Marlene moving like someone in shock as she secured the back door. Alana drove behind Marlene's car, following her home to a modest house 6 blocks away. They waited while Marlene checked all her doors and windows, then promised to have a patrol car, one with an officer Naomi trusted, drive past regularly through the night. "Try to get some sleep," Alana told her, knowing it was almost impossible advice to follow. "You too," Marlene replied, her eyes fixed on the flash drive's outline in Alana's jacket. "Keep that safe." The night passed in fitful fragments of sleep. Alana placed the drive in a locked case inside her motel room safe, then slept with her service weapon within reach. Morning arrived with the harsh buzz of her phone. It was Naomi, her voice tense. "You need to get to Marlene's bar. Now." 20 minutes later, Alana stood in what remained of Marlene's office. The filing cabinets had been emptied, desk drawers upended, computer monitors smashed. Even before the insurance company could document the broken window, someone had returned and destroyed any possible evidence. "They knew exactly what they were looking for," Naomi said quietly. Alana's phone rang again. The IT specialist she'd arranged to transfer the footage reported that the copied file was somehow corrupted. Nothing but static remained on the transfer device. One copy gone. Her stomach tightened. Then came the worst call of all. "Captain Brooks?" The voice belonged to a paramedic she didn't know. "I'm with your cousin Darius. He's been hurt. Memorial Hospital. Emergency." The hospital corridor felt endless as Alana rushed through it, Naomi at her heels. They found Darius in a treatment room, face swollen, right arm in a temporary cast, torso wrapped in bandages. "3 guys," he managed through split lips. "Masks. Outside the ambulance bay, said to tell you to back off." Alana's hands trembled with rage as she gently touched his uninjured shoulder. "I'll find them." "They knew my shift schedule," Darius added, wincing. "Only place that information is posted is inside the precinct." Naomi's face went pale. "This is coordinated." Alana's phone rang yet again. Chief Wynn's office. She stepped into the hall to answer it, and his falsely concerned voice slithered through the speaker. "Captain Brooks, I need you to report to my office immediately. We have a situation that requires your attention. My cousin is in the hospital, Chief. He was assaulted." "I'm sorry to hear that," Wynn replied, not sounding sorry at all. "But this can't wait. It concerns your continued service." 40 minutes later, Alana stood rigidly before Wynn's desk as he explained that multiple complaints had been filed against her. Allegations of bias, procedural violations, targeted harassment, and abuse of authority. "Pending a full review," Wynn said, sliding a document across the desk. "Your system access has been temporarily suspended. You'll maintain your rank, but Lieutenant Ferguson will oversee daily operations." Alana didn't touch the paper. "This is retaliation. This is protocol," Wynn corrected with a thin smile. "Perhaps, if you'd followed it yourself, we wouldn't be here." As she left Wynn's office, Grant Holloway stood in the hallway, leaning against the wall with calculated casualness. His predatory smile widened as she passed. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His eyes said it all. "You lose." Back at the hospital, Alana sat beside Darius's bed, her expression stony, but her insides churning with rage and worry. Darius, despite his injuries, reached out and gripped her wrist with surprising strength. "Do not stop now," he said, eyes fierce despite the swelling. "That's what they paid for." Afternoon light sliced through the blinds in Darius's hospital room, painting stripes across the linoleum floor. Alana sat slumped in the stiff visitor's chair, her captain's badge feeling like dead weight in her pocket. The events of the past 12 hours had left her exhausted, her authority stripped away by Wynn's administrative maneuver. She rubbed her eyes, watching Darius drift in and out of medicated sleep. A soft knock at the side door made her straighten. Naomi slipped in, looking over her shoulder before closing it quietly. "I parked 3 blocks away and came through the staff entrance," Naomi explained, her voice low. "They're watching the main doors." "Smart," Alana said. "But risky for you to be seen with me now." Naomi pulled up the other chair. "I'm already in this, and I brought something." She glanced at Darius, who had opened his eyes. "How you holding up?" "Been better," he mumbled through swollen lips. "They hit like cowards, quick and from behind." Alana leaned forward. "What did you bring?" Naomi pulled out her phone. "Before Wynn froze your access, I sent some files to a civilian contractor, Elliot Vance. He handles our server maintenance and digital archives." "Can we trust him?" Alana asked. "He's scared, but he's honest. He's seen too many accidents happen to evidence over the years." Naomi showed her a text message. "He'll meet us, but only if we guarantee protection outside department channels." Alana nodded. "My state contact can do that." "Where?" "Lenny's Diner on Westbrook. 40 minutes. Darius shifted painfully in his bed. "Be careful. These people, they're not playing by any rules now." Alana squeezed his good hand. Neither am I anymore. Lenny's diner sat at the edge of town, far enough from the precinct to avoid casual police traffic. Alana and Naomi took separate cars, arriving 10 minutes apart. Inside, Elliot Vance hunched in a corner booth, nervously shredding a paper napkin. He was mid-40s, pale, with anxious eyes that darted toward each new customer. "Captain Brooks," he whispered as Alana slid into the booth. "I shouldn't be here." "But you are," Alana said calmly. "Thank you for that." Elliot glanced at Naomi. "You promised state-level protection. Because if this gets traced back to me—" "It won't," Alana assured him. "What do you have?" Elliot pulled out a small external drive. "I couldn't save the original bar footage. By the time I realized what was happening, the file was overwritten. But I did grab these." He turned his laptop, showing a screen filled with timestamps and login records. "These are the metalogs from the evidence server. They show exactly who accessed the system, when, and from which terminals. Officer Becker logged in at 1:17 a.m. the night of your incident, long after his shift ended. He accessed the DVR intake protocol and modified retention settings." Alana studied the screen. "Becker, one of Grant's closest friends." "That's not all," Elliot continued, some confidence returning to his voice. "I also captured the external camera routing changes from that same night. Someone redirected the feeds from Marlene's bar area for exactly 22 minutes, just long enough to enter through the back door, tamper with her system, and leave." "Can you identify who did it?" Naomi asked. Elliot shook his head. "Not directly. But the authorization code belongs to Sergeant Miller." "Grant's supervisor," Alana muttered. "The same one who's been burying his complaints for years. Combined with those partial body cam clips Lieutenant Reed provided earlier." Elliot's voice trailed off. "It's enough," Alana finished. "Enough to prove deliberate obstruction. This isn't just Grant anymore. It's organizational." She connected the drive to her personal phone and forwarded everything directly to her state investigator contact, bypassing Wynn's chain entirely. The message sent with a soft ping. "The case is alive again," she told Naomi. Elliot fidgeted with his coffee cup. "There's something else you should know. Grant came by the IT office this morning, asking questions about the bar owner, Marlene. Wanted to know if she'd filed any formal statements, if she was planning to testify publicly." Alana's spine stiffened. "Did he seem worried?" "No," Elliot said quietly. "He seemed angry, determined." Naomi checked her watch. "We should go. Separately. Like we came." As they settled the bill, Alana glanced out the diner's front window. A patrol car crawled slowly through the parking lot, the driver scanning the parked vehicles with deliberate attention. Behind the wheel sat Officer Ramirez, one of Grant's most loyal friends. "Don't look now," she whispered to the others, "but we've got company." The bar sat dark and silent, its neon signs unplugged and blinds drawn tight. A handwritten sign on the door read, "Closed for repairs, a necessary lie for a dangerous night." Inside, Alana moved between the tables, checking sight lines. Every corner of this room felt charged with memory. There, the stool where she had stood. There, the spot where Grant had loomed over her. There, the puddle where alcohol had dripped from her hair onto worn floorboards. "Camera feed is live," Naomi said quietly from behind the bar, her laptop glowing softly. "Elliot just confirmed he's recording to an off-site server. Whatever happens here won't disappear." Marlene emerged from the back office, her face tight with tension. "You sure about this? These men, they don't play by rules." "That's exactly why we're here," Alana replied, checking her watch. "Grant thinks he's above consequences. Tonight, he learns differently." The state investigator had been clear. Get Grant on record, on camera, showing his true nature. The tactical team was positioned 3 blocks away, ready to move the moment things escalated. But the trap needed bait. "Get back to the office now," Alana told Marlene. "Lock the door. Don't come out no matter what you hear." Marlene hesitated. "This is my place. I should—" "Please," Alana cut in. "We need you safe, and we need witnesses who aren't directly involved in the confrontation." After Marlene retreated, Naomi moved to cover the rear entrance, positioning herself in the shadows near the stockroom. Alana dimmed the lights further, leaving only the faint glow behind the bar. "He'll come," she said, more to herself than Naomi. His type always does. They can't stand being challenged, especially by a woman. The minutes crawled by. Every creak of the old building made them tense. Alana found herself staring at the exact spot where liquor had been poured over her head. The humiliation still burned, but something else burned hotter now. Determination. At 11:42 p.m., they heard it. The scrape of metal against metal at the back door. Someone was forcing the lock. "They're here," Naomi whispered into her radio. 3 shadows moved through the stockroom. Grant entered first, followed by Officers Becker and Miller, his most loyal allies. All 3 were in plain clothes, but their postures screamed law enforcement. Grant carried a flashlight, sweeping its beam across the darkened bar. "Marlene!" he called out, his voice hard. "I know you're here. Your car's out back." Silence answered him. "Come on out," he continued, moving between tables. "We just want to talk about your statement." "About what you think you saw?" Alana remained still in her hiding place, as Grant grew angrier with each unanswered call. "You're ruining good officers' careers with your lies," he shouted toward the office. "Alana Brooks isn't your friend. She's using you to make herself look good." Becker knocked over a chair. "This is stupid. Let's just find her and explain how things work around here." Grant's flashlight beam hit the bar counter and lingered on the spot where he'd confronted Alana. That woman should have learned her place the first night. Instead, she comes in here thinking a captain's badge gives her the right to tear down what we built. That was Alana's cue. She stepped out from the shadows, moving into the faint light. "And what exactly did you build, Officer Holloway? A system where you terrorize witnesses? Where evidence disappears? Where good cops stay quiet because they're afraid of you?" Grant whirled around, momentarily startled. Then his face twisted with rage. "You have no idea what it takes to police these streets," he snarled. "I know it doesn't take pouring drinks on innocent people," Alana replied evenly. Miller stepped forward. "We should go. This is—" "No," Grant cut him off. "I'm tired of this woman thinking she can walk in and change everything." Alana moved to stand behind the bar, deliberately positioning herself exactly where she'd stood that first night. "The difference is, this time everything's being recorded." Something snapped in Grant's eyes. With a roar, he lunged across the bar, grabbing Alana by her jacket and slamming her hard against the liquor shelves. Bottles crashed around them as he pinned her against the bar rail. "You think anyone cares about your recordings?" he hissed, his face inches from hers. "You have no idea who protects us." Naomi stepped out from her position, weapon drawn, but pointed down. "The recorder's still running, Grant. Let her go now." The impact knocked the wind from Alana's lungs as Grant drove her hard against the polished bar rail. Pain shot through her back, but her training took over before fear could paralyze her. She saw the hatred in his eyes, raw and unfiltered now. No pretense of professional restraint. "You're done," Grant growled, spittle flying from his lips. Across the room, Officer Becker grabbed Naomi's arm, twisting it behind her back. "Stay down," he hissed. But Naomi wasn't a desk lieutenant for nothing. She dropped her weight suddenly, throwing him off balance. The third officer, Miller, bolted toward Marlene's office. "Find that footage," Grant shouted at him. Alana drove her elbow hard into Grant's ribs, feeling the satisfying impact of bone against soft tissue. He grunted but didn't release her. Instead, he lifted her slightly and slammed her against a nearby bar stool, using his weight to pin her down. "You think you can clean up this precinct?" Grant sneered, pressing harder. "Better captains than you have tried." The wood of the stool cracked under their combined weight. Alana could smell whiskey on his breath, liquid courage for what he'd come to do. Naomi had twisted free from Becker's grip. She grabbed a broken bar stool leg and swung it with all her strength. The wood connected with Becker's shoulder with a sickening crack. He howled in pain and stumbled backward, crashing through a table and sending glasses shattering across the floor. "Police! Freeze!" Naomi shouted, but her command was lost in the chaos. The office door burst open. Marlene Pike emerged, not cowering as they'd expected, but armed with a spray bottle of industrial cleaner from her supply closet. Miller turned just in time to catch a full blast in the face. "My eyes!" he screamed, clawing at his face as the burning chemicals did their work. Marlene didn't stop there. She grabbed a serving tray and swung it at Miller's knees, buying precious seconds before Naomi rushed forward and tackled him to the ground. Grant's face twisted with rage as he watched his backup falter. He grabbed Alana by the throat, his fingers digging into her skin with frightening pressure. With a surge of strength, he lifted her partially off her feet and shoved her backward onto the bar counter, the exact spot where he'd poured his drink over her head days before. "You should have left town when you had the chance," he roared, leaning over her, using his height and weight advantage. His free hand fumbled for his concealed weapon. Something snapped in Alana at that moment. The humiliation of that first night, the systematic corruption, the attacks on Marlene and Darius, all of it crystallized into pure, focused fury. This counter, this exact spot where he'd once made her feel powerless, would not be where she surrendered. She twisted violently to the side, her hand grasping a half-empty bottle of bourbon. With a sharp motion, she smashed it against Grant's forearm. Glass shattered, alcohol splashed, and Grant howled as the jagged edges tore into his skin. His grip loosened just enough. Alana drove her knee upward, catching him in the stomach. They both tumbled off the counter in a tangle of limbs, crashing onto the floor hard enough to rattle the nearby tables. Grant landed partially beneath her, and Alana used the momentum to grab his wrist and twist it behind his back with practiced precision. "Stay down!" she commanded, driving her knee into the small of his back. Grant bucked and thrashed beneath her. "You think this changes anything?" he spat, blood bubbling at his lips from where he'd bitten his tongue in the fall. "You have no idea who you're—" Outside, the tactical team had been listening, waiting for the perfect moment when there could be no ambiguity about what was happening inside. The state investigator gave the signal, knowing they now had all the evidence they needed on the live recording. Assault, threats, conspiracy, and obstruction captured in real time. Alana pressed harder on Grant's twisted arm, feeling the fight drain from him as she established full control. Blood trickled from her split lip, and tomorrow she'd discover a dozen bruises. But right now, her focus was absolute. She had him pinned, face down on the sticky floor of the bar, where he'd once thought himself untouchable. The front door burst open with a crash of splintering wood. Flashlight beams cut through the dim room as the tactical team flooded in. State investigators burst through the front door, tactical vests emblazoned with bold letters and weapons drawn. Their flashlights cut through the dim bar like searchlights, illuminating the chaos, overturned tables, shattered glass, and 3 distinct struggles frozen in time. "Police! Nobody move!" shouted the lead investigator. Alana maintained her position, knee pressed firmly into Grant's back, his arm twisted securely behind him. Blood from her split lip dripped onto the floor beside his face. She looked up at the officers without releasing her hold. "Captain Alana Brooks," she said clearly. "This man and his associates broke in and attacked us." Across the room, Naomi had her attacker pressed against a table, his hands already secured with zip ties she'd kept in her jacket pocket. Her eye was swelling shut, but her stance was rock solid. Marlene stood nearby, clutching the industrial cleaner she'd used to defend herself, her hands shaking but her eyes fierce and unafraid. The lead investigator nodded to Alana. "We got it all, Captain. Every word, every move." He gestured to a small device clipped to his belt. Live feed came through perfectly. 2 officers moved toward Alana, and she finally released Grant to their custody. They hauled him to his feet as he sputtered with rage. "This is a setup! She planned this whole thing!" Grant struggled as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." The investigator stepped closer. "Actually, we know exactly who we're dealing with, Officer Holloway. Breaking and entering, assault, witness intimidation, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and that's just from tonight's little performance." Grant's face twisted with disbelief as the reality of his situation finally hit him. His eyes darted to his fellow officers being led out in cuffs, then back to Alana as she slowly stood up, wiping blood from her mouth with the back of her hand. "This isn't over," he hissed. "Yes," Alana replied calmly. "It is." Within the hour, paramedics arrived to treat their injuries. Alana refused to leave until statements were taken and evidence properly secured. She watched as Grant was placed in the back of a state police vehicle, his power and swagger replaced with the slumped shoulders of a man finally facing consequences. By sunrise, the story had broken across the city. Elliot Vance arrived at the state investigator's office with complete server logs showing who had accessed and tampered with evidence systems. Naomi provided detailed testimony about the internal protection network that had shielded Grant and others for years. Darius, still recovering in his hospital bed, formally identified his attackers from photo arrays. At an emergency press conference, city officials announced Chief Harold Wynn's immediate removal. Reporters shouted questions as he was escorted from headquarters, his polished demeanor cracked by the public humiliation he'd tried so hard to avoid. "How many complaints did you personally bury?" one reporter called out. "Did you know about the assault on Captain Brooks from the beginning?" another demanded. Wynn kept his head down, refusing to comment as he was led to a waiting car. By afternoon, Alana's suspension was publicly reversed. The mayor himself apologized and confirmed her as permanent captain with expanded authority to restructure the precinct. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing as people began coming forward. Civilians with bruises from years past, officers who'd stayed silent out of fear, witnesses who'd been pressured into changing statements. 3 days later, Marlene reopened her bar. The broken glass had been replaced and tables rearranged, but she refused to change anything else. "This is where it started," she told Alana. "So this is where we celebrate it ending." The small space filled with people from the neighborhood, shopkeepers who'd witnessed harassment, young people who'd been unfairly targeted, and even some honest officers who'd felt trapped in the corrupt system. Darius arrived with his arm in a sling, accepting handshakes and thanks from people who recognized what his family had risked. Naomi brought Elliot, who still looked uncomfortable in the crowd, but managed a small smile when Marlene personally served him a drink on the house. In a quiet moment, he confessed to Alana that he'd been documenting irregularities for months, but never thought anyone would actually do anything about them. Marlene raised a glass behind her bar, the very spot where Alana had once been humiliated. "To the woman who showed us that sometimes justice just needs someone stubborn enough to force it into the light." The next morning, Alana walked through the precinct doors wearing her full uniform, badges gleaming in the early light. As she crossed the lobby, Officers who had once looked away or smirked at Grant's behavior rose from their desks one by one. The silence was profound, not hostile, but heavy with acknowledgement. Some faces showed respect, others uncertainty, but all understood the message. The old order was over. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel, and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked 2 special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.